You're listening to Packers Talk Network. PackersTalk.com.
Welcome to the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Myles Teteak, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamilton. We are diehard Packers fans, just love talking about the Pack. We're not getting into all the national sports media talking points and distractions and nonsense. We're sticking to real football, diving into the top topics around the Pack every week, breaking down games during the season and sorting through all the draft dreams and drama of the offseason. If y'all want to support the podcast, please spike that like button for us. Most importantly, jump on over to YouTube, type in Packers Talk Network, and hit us up with that subscribe button. That is the thing that makes this thing go and helps us find new Packer fans. We certainly appreciate it. And so today we are creeping up closer to Packers training camp here. It is right around the corner. And the 2026 season, there are a handful of very important players that are not named Jordan Love or Micah Parsons that are going to have a say in how this season turns out, maybe even before it gets started. So we're going to get through all those names and have you covered and primed, ready to go to know who to watch this year as training camp and preseason kick off. But of course, first, we got some business to keep track of here. Our show is once again sponsored by Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans, as well as those Bucks, Brewers, and I think Summerfest coming up. All them tickets you can get, you can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. And remember to support all of those local businesses, Wisconsin and otherwise. Tim, good evening. How are we doing, sir?
Good evening, Myles. I'm doing good. Right in the middle of summertime and coming up on 3 weeks until training camp. So
it's here, closer. Man. It's here. It'll be here in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, it's nice to be back with you this week. And
yes,
looking forward to the home stretch here of the offseason.
Absolutely. So I got to apologize. I was the reason once again we weren't able to make it last week. I thought we would be able to pull it off on Tuesday, and you'll notice I am not in my normal recording place. I am up in the north woods of Wisconsin, so I feel like I'm like recording from the backyard of Lambeau here almost, and just getting some family time in here. We were driving last week, so there's a lot of driving happening and no podcasting happening. So that's my fault. Apologize, everybody. But here we are. We're back, and we actually have a special guest with us this evening from Cheesehead TV, Mr. Kalani Jones, joining us. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you doing tonight?
Excellent. It's a beautiful evening up here in Northwoods, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm out here in Colorado. Actually, I'm not in Wisconsin. It is dry. It is hot. But my other co-host, Rob, he also just took a trip up to North Wisconsin, said it was beautiful. So I am jealous of the country that you are currently in.
It is. It's a beautiful thing. I'll be heading home here soon, so I don't get to take it in even till training camp. So I only get a little slice of it, but man, it's worth it. So if you guys ever have a chance to come up here, just anywhere north of Green Bay, I feel like is considered Northwoods. Definitely take advantage, get some time on the lake. But yeah, it's been good to get out here. So all right. So this evening, covering the top Packers who will impact the 2026 season the most. Top 5 most important players in 2026. Obviously not named Jordan Love or Micah Parsons. We can all pretty well understand the importance that they have on this season. But there are some other guys that if they don't hold up their end of the deal, I don't think the rest of it is going to matter, to be totally honest. And just getting the list started out here, for me, and I don't have them ranked 1 through 5, but if I did, this guy would probably be my number 1. Jordan Morgan. I think he holds the keys to the entire offense. He's got to hold it up at left tackle. If that doesn't go well, I think all bets are off for the rest of the offense and the offensive line for sure. But Tim, I know you shared that name on your list as well.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He's, after the obvious guys of Love, Parsons, Tucker Kraft, Zach Time, he's the key. the left tackle play is going to be huge for them. And like we've seen them survive with subpar play from Rasheed Walker last season and be a good offense, not a consistent offense, not a great offense, but good enough. Or not good enough, but just good. And I think they can do that. But you really want Jordan Morgan to exceed what Rasheed Walker gave him. And if he can, then that unlocks the potential for this offense to really click, for the offensive line to be much improved from last season, because they have to be. It was not good enough last year. So he's incredibly important. And, Rasheed Walker was pretty solid starting left tackle. And then his play fell off dramatically in 2025, and including in the playoff game against the Bears, where he was just awful and a big reason why they lost that game. So the bar isn't very high for Jordan Morgan to get to Rasheed Walker level, but he's got to be better than that. And if he can, it helps you stabilize your offense. We know we can count on Zach Tom, and everything else is kind of a question mark right now because of injuries, because of players playing new positions or positions that they haven't played since college, like Jordan Morgan. So there's a lot of unknown. But if you can have a rock solid left tackle, and I think Jordan Morgan could be that guy. We don't know. We haven't seen it. But if he can be that guy, it'll stabilize the offensive line and the pass protection for Jordan Love, and I think can really make Matt LaFleur feel more comfortable with what he's going to call on offense. Obviously, make your quarterback feel comfortable that he's going to be standing in the pocket where he's got protection, and can unlock the potential of this offense to be, the top 10 or top 5 offense that they have the capabilities to be.
Yeah, and doesn't it feel that Jordan Morgan and his development, it feels like probably the most important player that they've tried to develop, obviously since Jordan Love, but even, before that, in the preceding 10 years, has there been a more important player that they've tried to develop? You could maybe talk about Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness as first round pass rushers, but Bakhtiari was a 4th round pick, and he obviously, exceeded expectations way beyond anything we could have expected for that. But Jordan Morgan is a 1st round left tackle. Yeah. Like, that's the kind of pick that if he doesn't work out at tackle, and I'm not saying he won't, because I do believe in Jordan Morgan. I think he'll be a good to great tackle in the league. But if he doesn't work out, man, that is a franchise setting back kind of move, and we'll see the results of that this season if the worst comes to pass. I'm not trying to be a pessimist right off the bat here, but it's so interesting because we're all Packers fans. We know that the offensive line has been such a cornerstone of the franchise for so long. So to have a question mark, especially at left tackle, is super unfamiliar territory for all of us. So he's definitely 1A in this kind of discussion as far as like X factors, who's going to be the most important other Packers on the roster here.
Yeah, and I think to your point too, like the investment they made in him, 1st round pick, that was the first offensive lineman they'd taken in the 1st round since Derek Sherrod in 2011.
Yeah,
right.
And even Balaga,
Balaga right before that in 2010, right? But they've been finding all these tackles and offensive linemen in the middle rounds, later rounds, right? And that's great and all, but now you invest in a 1st round left tackle, but then for 2 years you don't let him play left tackle. Yeah. He's playing right guard, and then he's at the end of last season he was playing right tackle, and he did okay at right tackle after Zach Tom went down. But why they ever stuck him at right guard and kept him there for as long as they did, I'll never understand it. And he's a natural tackle. He knows that that's where he wants to play, and it was just that he gave it a shot and did the best he could, and he just wasn't good enough. I don't know why he was never there and at least competing with Rasheed Walker, rotating snaps or possessions like they did at other positions throughout the years, why they couldn't at least given him that and seen if he could have taken Rasheed Walker's job. It's weird the first 2 years how they handled his development, especially for a 1st round pick who they, that's a big investment. So it's great to see they finally looks like they're leaving him at left tackle and it's his job. But it would have been really nice to have had 2 years of development there so that he's, going into his 3rd year, we know what to expect. But right now he's kind of a complete unknown.
Yeah, and we got one of our friends in the comments, Mr. R. Showers, join us. Says there is very little evidence that Morgan will be great. I don't even think, yeah, and that's fair. I just don't think that great is even what you got to talk about with Jordan Morgan. He's got to be good, right? Like he's got to not get Jordan Love killed. He's got to not ruin the rhythm of the rest of the offensive line, and
not have the sound bites where he's Myles Garrett is beating him and he's telling Jordan to run for his life.
Run, Jordan.
Yeah, let's try to avoid that. Now, I can't appreciate the effort though. Like, hey, you got beat. Might as well give a guy a heads up. No, let's absolutely try to avoid those. But yeah, I mean, you certainly want your left tackle to be great, but David Bakhtiari's don't just walk out of Walmart. You gotta appreciate that if he's serviceable, if he's good, if he's a top 15, top 20 left tackle, you're probably okay, right? And there's some things you can do to help him if he's not great. There's certainly some scheming that they can do to take pressure off of him, but he can't be a liability. If he's a liability, I think you're hitting the panic button. And then, you're talking about like, all right, now they're forced to game plan around a guy who's not giving them enough time to throw or not giving them proper running lanes, or, whatever it may be. And then you can't get the full potential of this offense that you want to see with Watson getting a new deal, Reed getting a new deal, Kraft hopefully getting a new deal soon. And you got these, the chatter about, oh, is Watson worth the deal? I think if you've got the right time for Jordan Love to run the offense, he's going to show you he's worth it. But he's also a downfield player, right? You need some time for that to work, and so, yeah, that's why I say I think he holds the keys to the entire offense. And if he's not able to hold up his end of the deal, I think a lot of things could fall off before they even get started. And I apologize. There's apparently still some people blowing off fireworks out there. So that one there a little bit ago caught me off guard. I don't know how much of that got caught on the mic, but it scared the hell out of me. Anyway, and then a couple other friends here in the comments real quick. Michael Redden says, you look so different without the sunglasses. Yeah, I didn't bring the sunglasses with me up here. So this might be like one of the first episodes ever that I'm not wearing the sunglasses. I don't know. Maybe maybe we should break tradition every now and then. But our Showers is also onto us because Tim's got his beard back. So biker beard, no glasses. You two are going all Hollywood. What the hell? Man. We're not going Hollywood. I promise. I'm in Wisconsin Northwoods. I am not anywhere close to Hollywood. But yeah. So in case if you're not watching, you're like, what the hell? I don't know what you guys are talking about. But if you are, you might have some questions as well. So moving on though. So another player here, and I think this is a guy that I'm very interested and excited to see. A lot of people are expecting to have a breakout season, but Bullard, breakout season ahead, yes or no? What are the impacts of that? Tim, that's your guy. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's happening. I think he's going to have the breakout season, and I think they need him to. Like, this was a defense last year that just didn't create enough takeaways, and I think he's going to be a key to doing that this year. It's going to be really interesting how Jonathan Gannon uses him. I mean, he's definitely going to be the slot corner. But are we going to see him a little bit at safety? How much are they going to move him around? Are they going to blitz him off or out from the slot? Like that part of it will be interesting as far as how Gannon's using him as a chess piece. But I just think overall he's got the ability to be maybe more of an attacker in this defense, in this style of system, and to create those takeaways that were lacking last season. They were a defense that did get their hands on some passes. Xavier McKinney had some drops last year, but they just didn't create enough. And that was after last summer during training camp where they had the ball coach or the ball man, whatever that stupid thing was, where they were talking about forcing all these fumbles and we're going to create all the takeaways. And then you get to the regular season and it never happened. And it kind of like, we forget that it was such an emphasis for them because they just couldn't, get the job done in that category after making it such a big deal. So I think Bullard, he definitely showed growth last season in the second year. I thought he was much better than he was as a rookie. And he's really seems like he's coming into his own as a player. I think there's a lot of upward growth for him still. And I think if he can be the turnover maker, the turnover machine, and kind of that, playing that nickel position, being the star player there, that I think he's got the capabilities of being, that can really help your defense in allow them to flip the field for your offense, get the ball back, and it gives you another guy in the secondary because we already know we got 2 studs at safety with McKinney and Williams. If you have a third one there, we'll still worry about the outside corners, but if you have a third playmaker in your secondary, it would be huge and would go a long way for the defense.
Yeah, and I've been excited to hear that he's kind of done a little more cornerback drills rather than safety drills over the course of, so far during minicamp, because kind of the coverage skills are definitely, the area that he has to improve the most in. But he's such a great run defender. He's so physical. He has such great instincts there. I really think that Gannon has the chance to kind of unlock a better version of Bullard. And especially one that, like, again, who is more of a cornerback than he is a safety. I personally would not like to see him too much more at safety, just because that means that either McKinney or Evan Williams is off the field. So I think if they can get him to be more of a coverage specialist than he was last season. He came off the field a couple times during long third downs. I think towards the end of the season, Nate Hobbs was replacing him in the slot a couple times. I would like to see Bullard as more of an every down kind of nickel defender.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. Use all 3 of them all the time. And I know, like, there's going to be the temptation to go heavier at times because there's going to be a lot more teams that are going to get into the 12 and 13 personnel. So then somebody's got to come out. Naturally, that would be Bullard. But he's one of their best players. And the secondary is one of the best players on defense. Like, just get him on the field.
Yeah.
Like, if you're smaller, okay, figure it out. Like, there's other pieces to move around. There's other things you can do. But, like, yeah, to your point, I want him on the field every down with Williams and McKinney. There's no reason those 3 guys should be coming out.
Yeah, to be clear, so Kalani, was he on your top 5, this guy?
Bullard was not. No.
Okay, so Bullard's not on your top 5. But listen, I agree with you. I'd like to see if Gannon can unlock a better version of him. He's not in my top 5 either, but I do think that if he can be an impact guy, he can cover a lot of the question marks from the rest of the cornerback room. And, I'm over here. I'm a very fantastical person. I like to dream of the next Charles Woodson. I'd love to see that, right? And he's kind of in that position. Not saying that he'll be that caliber of player, but you'd certainly love to see that. And, maybe the switch to number 7 brings a little bit more swag to his game. The numbers can be magical that way. But then, so the next guy we've got here, another defensive player, and this is one that he's I'd like to put him on my list, but almost like with a slash next to Baron Sorrell. But how good can Colin Oliver be if he stays healthy? And, Kalani, I know this is one of your guys. What do you think here?
Well, the discussion with Oliver, because he is so different than any other edge rusher that the Packers have right now. All of the rest of them are 250, 260 pounds, LVNs all the way up to 275 pounds. Oliver is 240 pounds. So to me, the discussion with Oliver is, again, if he can stay healthy, if he can stay on the field, the difference that he brings in a overall pass rush scheme. Like, for example, if you're an opposing offensive tackle and you're going 10 reps in a row with LVN's just going to go through your face. Gets to a third down long, and then LVN shifts inside. He's at the 3-tech all of a sudden. You've got this 240-pound sophomore right in front of you. What is he going to do? He goes around you. Those kind of change-ups are so valuable to an NFL defense. And I really think that that's the potential that he can unlock, especially while Micah Parsons is out, because obviously he's not Micah Parsons, but Oliver's kind of the only other speed guy we have. It's him and Micah. So during the time when Micah's out, Oliver is really the only one who can generate those quick pressures that we were missing so much last season. Pressures that happen within, I think it's 2.5 seconds average time to throw in the NFL. So at that point, you're actually affecting what the quarterback wants to do. So to me, Oliver and even Sorrell, but Oliver is such a different player than what the Packers usually do. And that's what made me so excited when they actually drafted him in the first place 2 years ago. It was, a willingness to kind of go in a different direction. I think if Colin Oliver can play the preseason, I think he's going to have at least a couple sacks, and we're going to see a lot of excitement about Colin Oliver in the fan base.
Do you think the switch to the new defense too will benefit him more because he's going to be more of a stand-up outside
Exactly.
linebacker?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's one. You mentioned he's not Micah Parsons, but he is the similar skill set, right?
Yeah.
It's like he's going to try to win the same ways that Micah wins, and there's been some chatter about all the guys working out this offseason with Micah down in Dallas and his coach, and that's great. But he's one that I would love to see him and Micah on the field at the same time when the offense is obviously trying to account for the speed that Micah brings and just the total disruption. And then all of a sudden, here's this guy who he also has that speed game that you have to account for. I really think that could be a very disruptive game plan. And I don't know, you got to stay healthy, and that is the name of the game in the NFL these days. Yeah. But if you can make that happen, I think it would be a really exciting combination to have. And, the reason I say, kind of slash Barron Sorrell is obviously not the same skill set, but those two are both coming into their second season. And, I felt like Sorrell, when he came in that Vikings game and he got a sack and he started, I don't know, he looked like the real deal to me. And I'm excited to see what he does with a full NFL offseason under his belt. But, I'm a guy, I get kind of excited about intangibles. And when he was coming out and they're asking guys from UT about who they'd want to play with in the NFL, and everybody said Barron Sorrell, I was like, oh man, my antenna went up. It's like, hang on a second. Let's really focus in on this guy. I'm very excited to see what Sorrell can do in season number 2, and especially while Micah is out. So that's maybe the difference for me is I'm excited to see what Oliver can do on the field with Micah at the same time. I'm excited to see if Sorrell can hold things down and actually save this pass rush when Micah's not there. And I don't think either of you had Sorrell on your list. He's one that for me, I'm very excited about this guy and how he could fit in, especially Jonathan Gannon coming in and, having that pass rush focus. But are either of you excited about Sorrell, or am I the only one with that excitement over here?
No, he's intriguing to me. And I think like last season, he didn't play a ton, but we kind of saw flashes here and there. Right. And I mean, for a 4th round rookie who was buried behind some veterans, like he probably wasn't going to play enough no matter the situation, but there were some flashes and some encouraging signs there. And I think he needed the experience. I think he needed to get a little bit bigger. And it seems like he's doing that in the off season. When they drafted him, I thought it was a really nice 4th round pick. Like I don't expect him to come in and be like a 10 sack a year guy or anything like that, but I certainly think he can be a solid contributing, why Mike is out, probably a starter for them. And then when he's back, will be in the rotation. But yeah, he is going to be important. I mean, all those edge rushers without Micah there for the first however many games he misses are going to be really important. And Sorrell should hopefully make that second-year jump. And if he can, that'll make everybody feel a little better. And obviously the Packers are counting on him. They're counting on Oliver, Van Ness, Dennis Sutton. I think that's part of why they want to see these guys in camp, and that's probably part of why they're not signing a Jadeveon Clowney yet, or they're not making the Josh Sweat trade. They're not giving the Cardinals what they want. Like maybe one of those moves or something like that will come, but I think they at least want to be able to look at these guys and see them in camp with pads on and what kind of progress they made before they go out and try to get a veteran from outside the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about Sorrell is that like you said, the intangibles are just off the charts. His body type has never been in question. He does have an NFL edge rusher's body, and like you said, it's always just been he's going to have to sit and develop for a season or so. But I've never really seen a reason why he can't grow into like a Kingsley Enagbare type role for the Packers, which is a fine NFL career.
Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt about it. I mean, I would still like to have Enagbare. I thought that he was a good player and really could have, used him while Micah's out. But no, I agree. And I honestly think that his ceiling could be higher than that. But, to your point, there's no reason he can't be that. At least we haven't seen that yet. And he seems, physically like he's up for the role. So then, let's shift gears a little bit. We've gotten a little bit of chatter about the defense here. This guy is not on my list, but I agree that he has a place on the top 5, in an argument. Golden opportunity to improve the passing attack. Matthew Golden. And I got to say, I've heard a lot of chatter from other fan bases about how the Packers receiving room is just not good. I think I heard some Bears fans say it's one of the worst in the league, which I think is laughable. But Matthew Golden, I think, has maybe the biggest opportunity to take the year 1 to year 2 leap. And Tim, I know this is your guy on your list here. How big do you think his ceiling could be for this season? Assuming let's just make the assumption that Jordan Morgan holds his end of the deal up.
How big is his ceiling? That's a great question. He's got to be a starter. He's got to be, if you want to put a number on it, they're number 2 to Christian Watson. But a really consistent running mate for him is what they need, because he's essentially replacing Romeo Doubs. They're different receivers, much different types, but like he's going to be that guy. And we love Watson, but Watson isn't the high volume pass catcher, right? He's the down the field guy. He's definitely improved his route running and shown he's capable of other things, but like he's never been that high volume guy. They need another player to go with him that can take those, underneath passes that, the 3rd and 8s that Romeo Doubs would get those passes and consistently win. Red zone work, like you need somebody to replace that. And I know he's not the body type of Dobbs. They're different players, but he needs to step in and fill those shoes. So if he can at least give him Romeo Doubs level play, that would be awesome. I think he's capable of doing that in his 2nd year. And then from there, I think he's got the growth to eventually be, if you want to put a label on it, a number 1 receiver. The rookie year stuff, like, was he underused? Yeah, at times he was. There's film, and I'm not an expert, but there's film of him being open plenty of times where he didn't get the ball. Now, what the route is, what the progression is for Jordan Love, what they were like, we don't know the answer to any of that stuff. Could he have gotten the ball more though? Yeah, he wasn't like he wasn't separating or getting open in the NFL last year. He was. But it's, we've seen this countless times with the Packers. Like their receivers don't come in and, come out and have 1,000-yard season right away. It takes some time. And there's been a long list of really good receivers who the Packers have had who it's taken them time. And it's an NFL thing too. For every Justin Jefferson that comes in and explodes right away, there are plenty of guys who take 2, 3, 4 years. So I think it's okay. Like all the noise about Golden and, is he really that good? Is he ever going to develop? Like, just ignore that because it's garbage. He's a receiver. Like, it's going to take time. But I think just being able to see on film that this guy is open, he's separating from NFL cornerbacks, right there to me, that's like the biggest pot. Like, if you can get open, the ball's going to find you eventually, especially with a really good quarterback and a play caller like Matt LaFleur. Like, they're going to get it to him. So, yeah, he's definitely taking a 2nd year jump this year. It's just a matter of, can he be consistently reliable, right? Like the speed to get down the field's there, but can you be that 3rd and 8, 3rd and 6 red zone receiver who picks up, the crucial slant or the crucial, first down that you got to have it in the game. We saw it in the Dallas game last year on the drive that was 4th down, and Jordan Love went to Matthew Golden. But like, can you be that guy consistently all year? And that's, for me, that's going to kind of determine the type of year that he has.
Yeah, and the thing I really appreciated about Golden last year, even with the limited volume, was, to your point, Tim, Jordan Love found him on clutch occasions many times over the course of the season. That Dallas game, he caught 2 4th down catches in the Chicago Bears playoff game. So to me, like, even with limited volume, he does seems like he has that kind of, 3rd down, gotta have it gene to him. So I'm really excited about Matthew Golden. I think clearing the logjam a little bit at receiver is going to do not only him a ton of favors, but also Savion Williams, who I'm also very excited about. Hopefully in more of a receiver role. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but if I see Savion Williams take another jet sweep in the backfield next season, I am going to lose it.
I'm with you. That drove us nuts last year.
I am so over it.
God. Every time he came on the field, you knew he was getting the ball, and you knew it was going to be a jet sweep. And it was like, what are you doing?
2-yard gain, maybe.
Yeah.
The
And
guy
then
is 6'5", 225.
Yes.
Like, what are we doing here?
The one time they threw it to him deep,
the
he caught a
Gi-
game-winning pass against the Giants.
right.
Like, yes, it's right there.
And you would think the light bulb would have went on at that point.
Yes.
But he got hurt
He
and
just
all
went
that.
right back
but,
to it.
Right,
Yeah,
but they went right back
Jet
to
sweeps.
like, yeah, no more of that.
No,
Please.
we definitely we got to
Okay,
get it.
good.
We got to get. I think we all emphatically agree on that for sure. I mean, when you got a guy, and I think it's easy to forget about his size and his speed for crying out. He's fast.
Yes, he's
you
the
know,
whole package.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to forget about when they're using him the way they are. But it's like this guy is just a few ticks short of Calvin Johnson measurables here, and we're using him like Darren Sproles. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
So yeah, I hope somehow these words through some network find Matt LaFleur's ears. Like, dude, please stop. Please use Savion Williams the way God built him to be used.
Let him play receiver and learn receiver, and then all that other stuff that'll be there. Like, you can always go back to a jet sweep, but let him be a receiver first and learn the position and run the routes, and then like sprinkle that stuff in once he gets comfortable doing that, and it'll probably work better for you at that point than being so obvious with the play calling with him last year.
But also, like, to your point, like, again, he is like 6'5", 220. Like, him being elusive worked in college, but in the NFL, man, that's not going to work. That's not going to
north south.
Get
north south, not sideways.
No, so let's not overthink this here. You got a big dude who can run fast. Let's use him the way that you should. Yeah. No, and here we go. We got an extra agreement here from our buddy R Showers. Amen, brother. So sick of the lack of the short game. Savion needs to be in the dang plan. Yeah, it's just like, please. Maybe that should have even been this mention here. We're like overshadowing Golden with the plea to use Savion Williams the right way, but I haven't seen anybody who disagrees with that. So hopefully that happens. But and I guess it can be easy to forget that he was also a rookie last year. Him and Golden in their rookie seasons,
and a 3rd-round pick at that.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's not like a 7th-round pick, right?
No,
that's a significant
top 100 pick on him.
Yeah. So you've got these guys, and then you've obviously got Reed and Watson. I mean, the investment that's been made at the receiver position is not a small one by any stretch of the imagination. But these guys are still early in their career, and we were mentioning, it can take more than a year or two for these, especially the receivers to grow into their roles. And I think that there was a little stretch there of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase making fans think like, oh yeah, the good ones come out and they're good on day one. It's like, no. Those guys are like freakishly rare, like and the fact that they were on the same college team is just eye crossing. But that can't be the expectation. And we in Green Bay have seen Devontae Adams do the exact same thing, right? Like, he came out, he took a few years, and then boom, you were talking about him as one of the best receivers in the entire league for several years. So you got to give it time. I think to think that what a receiver is after year one is a little bit silly. So I agree on both of those guys. I that's where I get pretty excited about what the offense could be. You factor in the potential growth from Golden, from Williams, and then guys like Watson and Reed having full healthy seasons, and we're not even talking about Tucker Kraft yet. That's a big potential for a strong passing offense. So that gets me excited. But I think that again, kind of to go back to the root of things, it comes back to that O-line. You got to give them time to develop these different passing concepts. But let's shift it back over to the defense now. And I want to combine a little bit and do kind of like a slash again here with Zaire Franklin and Edge Cooper, right? And can Franklin be an upgrade over Quay Walker? I think Quay Walker was at his best. He was very good, but he was very inconsistent. He had several injuries, so we didn't really get to see a very good Quay Walker for very long. And then they obviously moved on from him for a reason. And, I'll be the first one to say we don't always like it, but when Goody decides to move on from somebody, he's usually right.
Yeah.
And so that's where I look at this and go, if Franklin's an upgrade over Quay, what does that look like, man? Because that, to me, that I get excited about that, not only for him, but for Edger and Cooper. And I think personally, and I know Tim, Edger and Cooper is your next one on the list. Personally, I feel like Edgerrin Cooper could be a big part of the solution to the pass rush while Micah Parsons is out. But Tim, take me through it. What do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I want Cooper to get back to being the playmaker he was as a rookie, but with more consistency. Like the rookie year, he had the splash plays, but he was also missing some plays. So I feel like in 2025, he was not missing as much, but he wasn't in the backfield. He wasn't creating the turnover plays, and that was something that overall the defense lacked. I want him to just put it together, like get the turnover plays. You're talking about maybe using him as a pass rusher, and I think they can do that more than what they did last season. And just the overall consistency of his game, because to me, he's a all-pro type of linebacker if he can reach his potential. Like there's no doubt about that. The physical ability he has and what he's shown in the NFL through 2 seasons, like he's a stud, but it's just, can they unlock it all? And I think talking about Franklin, he may be more of a stabilizer, a better stabilizer for him than Quay was, because I don't know if Quay and Edgerrin Cooper, like they had an odd fit. Like I think he needs somebody that's more of that around the line of scrimmage, tougher, kind of gonna be in the right place, gonna line everybody up in the right place, and he'll be reliable, but like it frees Cooper up to go and make the plays. Whereas Quay, was trying to be the playmaker as well, and wasn't a reliable linebacker at times. I think Franklin, potentially, if he's back to being the Franklin he was, pre 2025, I think he can be a better stabilizer for Cooper and really unlock Cooper as well at the same time. And if Cooper can reach the heights of what he's capable of doing, like that's now we're talking about like another playmaker on this defense, like along the lines of McKinney and Parsons and Evan Williams. It would really just take the defense up another level if they can have a playmaker at linebacker like what we've seen from Cooper at times over his first 2 years, but just doing it consistently.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do agree that I think Cooper and Quay Walker definitely had a little bit of overlap as far as what they can and should be doing on the field at the same time. And Zaire coming in, I mean, obviously we don't know exactly how good of a green dot Quay Walker was, right? We don't have, all 22 of Quay Walker calling plays. But Zaire Franklin's experience, he's been a team captain, he's a veteran in this league. I do agree it should be a really like a shot in the arm for Edge Cooper. And something else that I've been thinking about recently is, to your point, how Edge was more of a playmaker his rookie year. And then last year kind of seemed like the linebacker core as a whole was a little more reactive, right? Not as many pass rushes, not as many A-gap blitzes. I do wonder if, the Micah Parsons trade, how it happened so late in the offseason, kind of like shattered some of the plans that Hafley had for those guys. Because when you bring Micah Parsons in, all of a sudden, what's the opponent going to do? It's going to be quick passing over and over and over and over. It doesn't give the linebackers a lot of time to actually hit those kind of attacking roles, especially in the pass game. So I do wonder if, especially during this period when Mike is out, like you said, if we can use Edge as a pass rusher a little bit more. A couple weeks ago, I was researching for a different article, but I found that Edge and Quay actually had by far the highest rate of quick pressures on the entire team, like by a large margin. And I do think that most of that is kind of like schemed up. If a linebacker blitzes, it's usually a schemed up kind of thing. You're hitting an open hole because it's designed that way. But that's an area that I really, really think if Edge is going to hit his potential, it's got to be in some part due to using him more.
Yeah. And I think if you're going to blitz him more, use him more as a rusher, like perfect time to do that's beginning of the season when you don't have Micah Parsons, and you're going to be searching for guys that can get to the quarterback. So yeah, I'm all for that. Let him attack. Like the more he's attacking and going to the football, the better he plays.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's an interesting fact about the Quay and Edge were getting the quickest pressures. I can't say I'd be surprised by that because, again, to your point, they're probably hitting the A and B gaps, and those are tough because the interior guys aren't always ready for that. And if you can find those holes and exploit them, there's a lot of damage to be done. That's one of the things that makes me think use Edgerrin Cooper there, send him through there, just like a missile. And dare the offensive line to be able to account for it. I think that'd be a big challenge for him. But yeah, I really do. Franklin, he's one of those guys that one of the biggest values that they talked about whenever they acquired him was his leadership. And you say we don't know exactly how Quay grades out with wearing the green dot and all that. It seems like that was what they were after Franklin for. I mean, he's obviously played some good reps at linebacker. Don't get me wrong, but we don't always, as fans, and certainly not on the stat sheet, get to know what's going on between the ears, what's going on in the locker room, what's going on in the film room. But it sounds like that's where they felt like his value was, and one of the reasons they came to get him. And the other thing is he really wanted to play for Gannon. So that gets me excited that he's not stepping into a system where it's like, well, he's going to have to figure it out. No, he seems to have a pretty good idea of what he's walking into playing for Gannon, and he wanted that. So that gets me excited as well, that he should have a smaller learning curve and maybe even be able to up Edge Cooper's game from that perspective, specifically in the film room and that kind of thing. So those, I kind of started with Franklin, but it's really the two of them. It's Franklin plus Cooper, and I really feel like if those two are, I don't even want to say holding up their end of the deal. I mean, I feel like they've got a chance to be like one of the best linebacker tandems in the league next year. And if they can do that, man, the questions that we have on defense get a lot smaller, even if the cornerback room is figuring it out, even if we aren't sure who's on the D line. If those two can manage a lot in the middle and you got the safeties behind them, they really can cover a lot of ground and a lot of other, less impressive areas. So then, shifting back here, let's go back to the offensive side of the ball, get a little bit of variety mixed around. One guy that I think has been kind of polarizing for the Packers fan base, Marshawn Lloyd. He is one that I, even at the beginning of the offseason, said he doesn't even exist anymore. He's not real. Until I see him on the field, he's just not real. He's just not a real thing. Watching him in college got me really excited about what he could do for the Packers. And then obviously he's had the injury issues that he's had. Now, I read earlier in the offseason about, he went and kind of did the same thing that Christian Watson did and had these issues evaluated, went through some testing to figure some things out. Kalani, do you think Lloyd has finally turned the corner and solved these issues? You think we're going to actually see this guy in the field?
I do. I can't, obviously guarantee that. If we never get to see Lloyd really play in the NFL, that's going to be such a tragedy. That's going to be such a bummer. Because, I mean, like you said, all the way back to college, he's so dynamic. Every year we hear how, he looks like he's the best running back out there in training camp. And the thing that excites me about Lloyd so much is that even if he is just an average to good running back in the NFL, what he brings, kind of similar to, what I talked about with Colin Oliver, where it's just like, if he can bring something different to what we already have on the field. I like Josh Jacobs. He is not a dynamic running back at this point in his career. Yeah. Even Emmanuel Wilson last year, who was the running back too, his longest rush of the entire year was 15 yards. That was a major point where the Packers offense just couldn't get any explosive runs going. And especially for a team that relied so heavily on the explosive passes to run their offense, having somebody who can present a little bit of a home run threat, who can actually threaten the open field and can also help in the passing game a little bit more. We're talking about how, we have these three guys, Golden, Watson, Reed, Tucker Kraft. You can get Marshawn Lloyd on the field at the same time. All of them are out there running routes. You've got threats on every single level of the field. Defense has to guard every blade of grass. To me, he just opens up the Packers in such an exciting way if he stays on the field.
If he stays on the field. Big fat if right there.
Yeah.
No, and he's one of those that I have him on my list as well. And set aside the off-field issues and question marks with Josh Jacobs. I think you made a good point there. He's not the dynamic guy. He's a good runner, and you got to give Josh Jacobs credit for making the offensive line look less bad than they were.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't want to say better than they were, but just like less bad. And I think he had like one of the lowest, first points of contact in the league.
Yeah.
And he pulled 12 touchdowns. He looked good. He made it look like the Packers had a good running offense, even despite the issues on the O-line. But that just doesn't quite threaten the defense, right? It can wear a defense down at the end of a game. It can certainly make them have to overcompensate in the goal line because, he's probably going to get it and be able to punch it in. But, getting to that point, Marshawn Lloyd totally forces defenses to have to account for him in a different way, right? He's a bigger threat. And that's what I think what we're saying here is that element to the offense when you've already got the rest going on is very exciting. And I think rare. I don't feel like there's a lot of NFL teams that have it at all of those levels. Maybe like the 49ers come to mind, but yeah, at that point, if he can be that guy, man, it really unlocks a lot for the passing game and for the rest of the guys on the offense. It probably takes a ton of pressure off of a Jordan Love. But yeah, so he's one that he's definitely on my list as far as X factors go in 2026, assuming he can stay on field. I will say I am a believer in how Christian Watson treated his injury issues. I certainly believe that his soft tissue issues are behind him. Anybody can tear an ACL. That's unfortunate that happened, but the way he came back from it, I think, proved a lot about his toughness. So hopefully Lloyd can step in and do the same thing. But, that I feel like would really even unlock a lot for Matt LaFleur in the scheming of things as well, where maybe last year he felt like he was a little bit limited as far as what Josh Jacobs could do. So then let's shift it back over, keep it going back and forth. This next one, and again, this kind of feels like to me, we want to talk about Wyatt, but I really feel like it's D-line. Wyatt certainly, I believe, is the leader in that group. Hargrave comes in as like kind of the elder statesman, but as far as just we're looking at who is the playmaker, probably the best player of the D-line, it's got to be Devontae Wyatt. And man, when we saw him last year, he looked good. He tried coming back, gets hurt again. So, Wyatt, I certainly think is a key to the D-line taking the next step. But Tim, give me your thoughts on Wyatt.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, like he looks good. He shows you those flashes and the ability of what he could be, and then he gets hurt. And that's been his pattern throughout Green Bay, and it sucks because you're seeing like what he's capable of. The interior pass rush that he can provide can be a difference maker for the defense, but he can't stay on the field for a fully healthy season. And there's been years where he comes back and he's still playing with something and it's affecting him. They could ever just get a fully healthy season out of him. I think they have something there as an interior pass rusher. He's also going into a contract year, so he wants to get paid. So extra motivation for him to be healthy and be very productive. Will the Packers extend him? I don't know. I mean, as far as extensions go, we know they're going to extend Tucker Kraft, but I kind of feel like Wyatt's in a similar boat to where they were last year with Quay Walker, where they had talked about, yeah, we want to extend Quay Walker. Yeah, we expect them to be here. And then it kind of just never got done. And as the year went on, it was real quiet and nothing was good. And then at the end of the year, they let him walk because they knew that he wasn't good enough to get the money that he was going to get from somebody like Quay did. And I wonder if that's where it's headed with Wyatt. But I think he's got the ability, if he can put together a healthy season and a consistent season, that he'll be somebody that they want to pay at some point. And he's incredibly important. Like they brought in Hargrave, nice addition, but he's an older player. And can he hold up? Is he in decline? And if he is, like, that's going to severely hurt them. So that's why Wyatt is so key in there, because they really don't have that interior pass rush. It's relying on him, and they just need him on the field, and they need him to be consistent. Because again, without Micah Parsons for however many games that he's going to miss, you need the pass rushers. So where are they going to be? It doesn't just have to be your edge rushers. It can be interior, and Wyatt can be a big part of that. But we got to see him, and we got to see him finally put it all together. And when he went out last year in the Lions game in Thanksgiving, I know, right after that we lost Micah and we lost Zach Tom and Tucker Kraft before that. Big injuries, but don't forget they lost Wyatt too, and it had a great effect on the defense. You can see when he's healthy and when he's playing at his level, the defense is completely different and plays much better. So they can get him on the field and playing consistent. It can be a real difference maker.
Yeah, Wyatt's such an interesting player to me. I think Wyatt should be LVN the number one fan, because if LVN was not on this team, all of the heat that we see LVN getting for not developing and not having this breakout would be going to Devontae Wyatt.
Yeah.
Because Wyatt has also not broken out. He's not really earned his first round pick so far. Like you said, inconsistent, hurt pretty often. He's not really a great run defender. As far as the pass rusher, I think he's definitely top half of the league as far as, pass rushing defensive tackle, which is incredibly valuable. So earlier this offseason, I did a film breakdown of Javon Hargrave. That's on my Substack. You guys can go check that out. But I do think he still got a little bit more in the tank. I think he was better at run defense than I thought he was going to be. So it's for that reason, Hargrave is one of my X factors for this exercise as well. But the two of them have so much work to do next offseason this upcoming season. Because all season long, we saw every team had the same game plan against the Packers. It was run the ball up the middle, grind the defense down, because nobody could stop it. And it is pretty much up to Hargrave and Wyatt. McClellan will see what kind of role he earns on the defense. I think he'll probably have a pretty big, early down rotational kind of role, but he's still just a rookie. So as far as those two guys go, it's kind of up to them to shore up that run defense next season.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, I kind of want to tee you up here, Kalani, for your other X factor, because I think that is really where this all goes back to. But, the D line has to be good. They have to certainly be better than they were last season. In hindsight, and then, kind of in review, I definitely feel like the defense didn't take enough heat for how the season finished.
Yes.
Everybody was real hot on Matt LaFleur, myself included. And I certainly think that there's some blame there, but, the defense got a pass, and, Devontae Wyatt going out definitely didn't help. I think that maybe contributed a lot to things as far as how they finished and didn't finish. But, yeah, they have to be better, because, otherwise now we're talking about, again, it falls back on the linebackers to stop the run. And if they're stopping the run, they're not making plays that you wanted to make in other areas, and then they're kind of on their heels reacting instead of being proactive and being able to sort of force their own tone and their own pace of things. So, yeah, that one to me, I totally agree with, Wyatt and, slash D line. But Klein, why don't you give me your final X factor here, so we can sort of take it into that.
Yeah, my final X factor here for the Green Bay Packers is defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. Might be cheating a little bit, but it's kind of, he was the most consequential addition to the Packers this offseason, for better or for worse. Now, I don't know if you guys had a favorite, defensive coordinator candidate at that point earlier in the offseason. Jim Leonard, Christian. I was a huge fan of Christian Parker. But I think Jonathan Gannon checked so many boxes for the Packers, and I think he's going to be a really, really good fit for what the Packers want to do. He is somebody that, let's be honest, Matt LaFleur does not want to think about defense. He doesn't want to deal with the defense. He probably doesn't want to talk to the defense, but not that, joking, of course. But Gannon is someone who can run a defense. He's obviously a little awkward in the interviews. He's a little awkward in front of the cameras, but we've talked about a couple players already who used to play for Jonathan Gannon and came to the Packers specifically because they employ Jonathan Gannon. His players love him. Zaire Franklin, Javon Hargrave, Josh Sweat had the Packers on his list because Jonathan Gannon is here. To me, him being able to rally the troops is not a problem, but he's got so many problems to solve for the Packers. We already talked about, the linebackers. How is he going to deal with the pass rush without Micah Parsons? The cornerbacks, where do you even start with Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, that whole situation? How do you keep Javon Bullard on the field? This whole discussion that we've had tonight, most of these guys have been on the defense because that's where so many of these question marks are. And Jonathan Gannon, he runs a very heavy zone system. It always cracks me up when people bring up he said, I don't have a scheme.
Yeah.
That might be true, but he does have tendencies. Like Jonathan Gannon, you run the most dime in the league, like by a pretty fair margin. He likes his 5-man fronts. We've seen all the signs of moving to a 3-4. But what I'm most excited about is his tendency to run a quarter system, kind of that modern, that dynamic match quarters scheme that we really haven't seen in Green Bay up to this point. And I think is really going to emphasize the strengths of Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams, those playmakers that we already do have on the field.
Yeah. So you mentioned one of the things that I'm very excited about is that these guys wanted to come play for him. Yeah. And, one of the things that I've talked about with as far as Gannon goes, and when he was hired, I was really one of the people who was like, wait a second, the guy that did this thing, like the videos on him were just not good. You're just like, oh, who is this nerd? What is going on here? And, and then the Cardinals didn't have, a great time with him. And I'm also kind of in the camp of that defensive coordinators, for whatever reason, they have a harder time stepping up to the head coach role, even if they're great defensive coordinators. There's plenty of examples of guys who are just phenomenal defensive coordinators and didn't have success as a head coach. But when we, kind of let the dust settle and you hear of all the guys that want to play for this guy, you're like, wait a second, when was the last time we had a defensive coordinator in Green Bay that guys were like, I got to go play with that guy. I want to come to Green Bay to play with that guy. And I would like what I came back to is like Dom Capers, I guess. Like it certainly wasn't Joe Barry, and Jeff Hafley wasn't as well known, so there wasn't a ton of that energy around him, even though he was a good defensive coordinator. So yeah, when we started hearing that all these really good players wanted to come play for him, it's like, all right, let's sit back here a second and take this in. But then when he comes out in the press conference, we finally get from him. And he says that he wants in ways that they are good at, right? We're not going to do things they're not good at. We're going to do what they are good at. I love that. I love that mentality. And I'm totally fine with the whole idea of I don't have a system when that's the system, right? When the system is let's figure out what my guys can do and do it. Bring it on, man. Whatever system you want to call that, that's the system I want to run, because we've seen the other side of that with Joe Barry lining up Preston Smith across from Justin Jefferson at cornerback 1. Like that didn't work. So we're not going to do that anymore. But yeah, personally, I really am excited to see how he can unlock the whole defense, right? And is it the D-line being better? Is it the cornerbacks being better? Is it getting the most out of your best players like McKinney, like Cooper? Improving the pass rush. He seems to have a pretty good idea for how to get a good pass rush going. He won a Super Bowl in Philly with that. So, you don't have, when Micah's not on the field, you don't have these marquee names at your pass rush position, but maybe that's okay. Maybe you've got the tools that he knows how to work with. And that's where I'm very excited about that. I totally agree with him being an X factor for the season.
Yeah. And the other thing that stood out to me, because I wasn't a big fan when they initially hired him, but I've grown to kind of like it, and I'm definitely interested in what he can do for the defense. But what stood out to me was with the Cardinals, they didn't have any talent on defense. So he went from a scheme that he played in Philly to the scheme that he played with the Cardinals was completely different. They were just trying different things. That's why they played a lot of dime. That's why they played a lot of 3 safety. That's why they were so many rotations in the secondary, pre-snap and post-snap. Like they were just trying things to make up for the lack of talent. In Philly, he could line up and he had 4 guys that could rush the passer, and they would rush the passer, and they got like 70 sacks and went to the Super Bowl because he had the talent. He didn't have to be real creative in Philly because he had the players. But he showed that, like, when you needed it, yeah, the results maybe weren't there statistically, but if you look at them last year, they were in a lot of games until like fourth quarters, and like there was some other factors that played into it because they weren't very good offensively either. But like he at least showed that he could adapt to the players he had, so that'll be interesting. Like, yeah, he says he doesn't have a scheme, but there are certainly going to be things that he plays a lot of and that are his basics. And then it's going to be interesting to see like how creative he gets, because I think at times Halfley did that, but then I think that kind of like last year he got Parsons and it was like, yeah, I got Parsons, just go get the quarterback. And that makes sense because it is Micah Parsons. But then it was like, okay, when it was just like beginning of the year, everybody was getting a pass rush, but then Rashawn Gary disappeared and Van Ness was hurt and Wyatt got hurt. And then it was like, okay, if Parsons doesn't get there, nobody's getting there. And then when he was gone, it was, we don't have an answer. So maybe Gannon has some answers, and yeah, he's going to play a lot of quarters and he's going to do certain things all the time, but like he's got other tricks because he's shown with Arizona and Philly he can play defenses different styles.
Yeah, and real quick, as far as like the whole like awkward personality of Jonathan Gannon, I don't know if you guys have seen this clip, but there's a video of a couple of Eagles fans before the NFC Championship game between the Eagles and the 49ers, and they're sitting in traffic, and they recognize Jonathan Gannon in the car. He rolls up, he rolls his window down, and he goes, "We're going to gut these guys today," and then he just drives off. And I'm like, man, he'll be fine. He's okay. He's just a little awkward in front of the camera.
Yeah, we can forgive a few awkward moments for that guy. Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of Andy Reid wasn't good with the media. Bill Belichick wasn't good with the media. Who gives a shit? They won a lot of Super Bowls.
Exactly.
Like, I don't care if they're winning the press conferences.
No. At this point, I don't either. Win on the field, and we'll enjoy the press conferences for what they are. But yeah, so and I guess kind of some honorable mention. One of the ones that while we're talking about the defense, Cisse is a guy that I had on my X Factor list. I think that if he can step up and be good, he definitely changes the whole dynamic of the defense, because right now I think it's easy to agree cornerback is probably the liability of the room, and maybe the Packers don't see it that way. They seem to like Nixon, and Valentine's not terrible, but he's certainly not the answer and holding down things there. So I feel like if Cisse can elevate and really be a stable force, then you've only got question marks at one cornerback position, and that's pretty normal, right? Not everybody's got a perfect room across the board, but again, back to Gannon, I really look forward to seeing how his philosophies can help the cornerback room compared to what we saw with Halfley, because it really did feel like last year with Halfley, he got his hands on Micah Parsons, and that was the answer. That was the plan. Parsons, go get the quarterback. The rest of us will just do what we have to do. And hopefully that's not how Gannon handles things. It doesn't seem like he will anyway. But so we're past the hour here. Kalani, I wanted to give you a chance, man. I appreciate you joining us. Where should everybody find you and follow you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Cheesehead TV. I do a weekly article there. Once the season starts, I'll be doing the game recaps every morning after a game, game balls and lame calls. I'm also on the Sounds Good podcast every Thursday, sometimes on Wednesdays. You can also find me on Substack, Green Bay Breakdowns, where I also just started my own Packers-focused draft podcast, 365 days a year, not quite that much, but year-long draft content catered specifically to the Packers. So I just started that, super excited about getting that going. I just put the top 10 cornerback list out. I'm doing running backs in a couple days. That's been such fun to get off the ground. So go check that out if you have the time.
Absolutely. Definitely go check out Kalani's stuff. We got his Twitter handle scrolling at the bottom of the screen as well. Give him a follow there. We appreciate you joining us tonight, man. We like to get into the draft stuff too. So when that season comes back around, we'll have to do some more collaboration.
Oh yeah, anytime. Fun to have on fun to be on with you guys.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I appreciate it, and especially this time of year. There's a lot of hope, a lot of speculation, not a whole lot to go off of. So this was good, man. I appreciate you jumping in with
Thank you.
us. And,
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and again, you guys go check out all those different areas. You can follow him, the Sounds Gouda podcast, all of that. Certainly on Cheesehead TV, had a great article today coming out. But yeah, so if you guys had a fun time with us tonight on the Pack Weekly Pod, go ahead and spike that like button for us, hit it again, and certainly give us that subscribe. It helps us out a lot, helps us find new Packers fans. And if you loved it, tell a Packers fan, bring a Packers fan, help us find more, help them find us. And we got a fun season, I think, coming up ahead here in 2026 with training camp right around the corner. So definitely come hang out for more. We will be back again next Monday night, 9:30 p.m. Central, streaming live, talking Pack. And of course, as always, go